I don't know her, but she has some good knowledge. She's very knowledgeable about the whole Israel and Palestine thing.
She
I didn't
is
really know
very
much about it, so
knowledgeable.
I learned a lot. Yeah. Okay.
Well, thanks for joining me, Charisse. We will go ahead and get started, and I suspect your classmates may join us shortly. Welcome, everyone, to the Module 3 live session for the Ethics Around the Globe course. This meeting is being recorded for the benefit of your classmates who couldn't be here so they can watch the video later. This week, we have two topics. One, Aristotle's virtue ethics, and then we're going to head east and talk about Buddhism. So here's a picture of Aristotle. He's one of the three ancient Greek philosophers. In Module 1, we talked about Socrates, who lived in 500 BC. Socrates taught Plato, and then Plato taught Aristotle, who then taught Alexander the Great. And during the Middle Ages, Aristotle became known as the philosopher. So, we've talked a lot about moral theory. We started out talking about Kantian ethics, which requires us to act in accordance with universal moral laws. Then we talked about Jeremy Bentham's consequentialism, which said the morally correct action maximizes the consequences. And Aristotle has his own mind, and he rejects both of those ideas. He wrote a book called The Nicomachean Ethics, named after his son, in which he advocates for this idea known as virtue ethics, which is what we're going to be discussing this evening. So our objectives are to explain the basic ideas of a virtue-based ethical theory, describe Aristotle's ethical theory, give examples of what it means to be a good person according to Aristotle, and explain Aristotle's notion of friendship. So Aristotle wrote a great deal about how to live a good life. Happiness was an important feature in his ethics, but again, very different from utilitarianism. For Aristotle, happiness was human flourishing. It's each person being the best person that they can be according to their virtues. So we're first going to talk about friendship because many virtues and vices are at play within your interactions with your friends. You know how big of an influence your friends have on you. So we're going to talk about Aristotle's three levels of friendship. The first is utility. This is a friend who's useful. This is sort of a shallow level of friendship. Many would describe such a relationship as an acquaintance or a business connection. This would be the type of relationship you may have with your favorite barista at the coffee shop you frequent, or even someone that you do business with often. And once that usefulness is gone, so is the relationship. So, Charisse, can you think of a friendship that falls into this relationship of utility? One that you may have experienced?
Um, hmm. Yes, I have become very good friends with my contractor, but it's all business. Um, so I suppose I'm friendly with him and his company because I need my house done. But no, I was talking with a friend of mine this week about friends like this, and I really hadn't read this yet in the book that friends who we have who come around when they need work because we know about all of these jobs, and then once they have work, we never hear from them anymore until they
Yes.
work again. So I think that might fall into this category.
Yes, that's usefulness. It is sort of a shallow level of friendship. Once the usefulness is gone, so is the relationship. And it can arise out of a business connection. When I go shopping in the stores, which I don't do anymore, but before the pandemic, I used to see my favorite cashier at Target, or I would see my favorite cashier at the grocery store, and I would always say hi and how are you doing? How are your kids? Show me a picture of your dog, you know. But once that person gets a new job, that friendship's over. So that is the most shallow level of friendship. The second level of friendship is pleasure or enjoyment. You enjoy the company of the other person and they enjoy your company. With this level of friendship, you share mutual interest. This would be like the friend you play cards with and you go to concerts and sporting events with. Many of the relationships considered friendships in contemporary society fall into this category of pleasure and enjoyment. I can think of some people that I've met at work, and after work, we used to go to the baseball game together, and it was really fun. Sometimes we would go bowling together, or if there was a new Chinese restaurant in town, we would go check that out together. And it was really nice, you know. Have you ever had any friendships that fell into that category of pleasure and enjoyment, Charisse?
Yes, especially when I lived in Miami. Those are friends that I would call on the weekend because we would go out clubbing or just stay at home and do a potluck together and play board games. Yes.
That's so amazing.
Mhm.
All right, let's take a look at our third level of friendship, which is the highest form of friendship according to Aristotle, and it's a true friendship. This true friendship is based on a mutual well-being, and these are very rare friendships. There are elements of the other two types of friendship, but the foundation is different. Each friend enjoys the other person's company and their character. The well-being of the friend takes priority over your own. One's awareness goes beyond him or herself. This true friendship aids in your ability to reach happiness because the friend encourages you to be a better, more virtuous person. Hi, Brianna. How you doing? We were just talking about the three levels of friendship according to Aristotle and true friendship. Now, according to Aristotle, you know, good people can have friendships with bad people and vice versa, but true friendships can only occur between two good people. This is because only truly good people are able to care for others for the sake of the other person, and that is why true friendship is very rare. Have you ever experienced true friendship, Charisse?
Yes. So I have, this is sad, but I have this with my mother.
Oh, that's
Um,
wonderful.
I can say that I do have that with her. And then I have one friend, one of my best friends is a male, and he's just the most wonderful person. Like he's very thoughtful. So, for example, when I was very young and got divorced, and my ex-husband took everything, and I called him and I was telling him I didn't expect anything, and he just came by with chairs, plastic chairs, because we didn't have any money. He went to some store and bought plastic chairs and just every little thing that I needed, and I never forgot that. That was just really nice of him.
That is a true friend right there.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, I have, you know, family members. Sometimes family members can be your best friends because there is a mutual interest that you want to see this other person succeed for their own good, and they want to see you succeed. I definitely have had true friendships with family members. Value system was the same, and I knew they would, you know, cross an ocean for me and I would cross an ocean for them. I also have some true friendships of people that I grew up with that I knew in grade school and high school. I've really had one lifelong best friend, and ironically, she became a teacher and she actually worked here for a while, just totally independently. We ended up both working at Rasmussen. I was like, hey, and you know, and she does things for me out of the goodness of her heart. I do things for her out of the goodness of my heart. and you don't even expect anything in return. It's just because you're so concerned about the well-being of that other person. And that's why true friendship is rare. Gosh, and these days it seems really rare. It even seems more rare. And I read a quote on the internet. It said, "Fake friends are like leaves found everywhere, and true friends are like diamonds and very rare." But yeah, it is. It is. So, Brianna, have you ever experienced this true form of friendship that Aristotle is talking about?
I have. And you're right, it is rare, but when you find that friendship, it's almost like a soulmate. And you want to hold on to those because they don't come along very often. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely have. And my sister always tells me that friends are like trees. You're going to find some that are roots, and you're going to have some that are leaves and some that are branches, right? So, sometimes friends fall off and you guys, they don't stay around forever. Those are the leaves. The roots are the ones who really stay and are there forever. So that's kind of how I like to look at it.
Yes, you're right, and that's a wonderful analogy. Absolutely. Okay, so how about this idea? Now, friend Aristotle says that good people can have friendships with bad people as long as it's a low level of friendship. But he says only true friendship can occur between two good people. And here's an example. Suppose you have a friend named Bob. Bob had to steal some money. His son was in trouble. He needed some money. Bob stole some money. Bob comes to your house and says, "Hey, I just stole some money. I need a place to stay. Can I stay here with you?" What do you do if you're Bob's true friend? What would you do in that scenario, Sharice?
I hate to say it, but Bob couldn't stay because I I love my friends, but I love myself too. And I wouldn't want to get in trouble for Bob.
Yeah, that's harboring a felon. That's like a felony in and of it. Theft is a felony, and then harboring a felon is also a felony. So
Yes.
that's that example of is bad people cannot have a true friendship with a good person, right? That's what Aristotle
I get it
says.
now. I get it now.
Yeah. What do you think, Brianna?
I think it's totally true and it makes complete sense. I mean, there's no way for, let's say, one good person to be friends with a bad person. It just, eventually, it won't work. It just doesn't, it's not possible. So I agree with Aristotle.
Yes, one thing I found with, especially with those rooted friendships that grow when in the ground and they get stronger like the trees and they age beautifully. And is that it occurs better when the both of the people have the same value system. The best friend I have, we grew up in the very same area. We're both teachers. We both have a very similar ethical and moral belief system, and I think that's why that friendship continues to thrive, because we both have the same view on ethics in life. Not that we have all the same views, but we both certainly have the same foundation and beliefs on justice and fairness. And people that I see who do not treat people with fairness, I don't want to have a friendship with them, and I don't even want to have like this level of friendship. I think when I was younger, when you're looking for friends to hang out at the mall with, or you're looking for friends to socialize with, the morality doesn't matter so much. It's just like, oh, we're all going to hang out, we're all going to go to dinner, we're all going to go to this event, we're all going to go to a concert. Then it's just hanging with the gang, like this group of girls. They're not so much concerned, in the picture, are they really concerned with the other person's morality, or are they there for pleasure or enjoyment? What do you think, Brianna? If you look at the girls in this picture, what level of friendship is that?
Pleasure and enjoyment.
It really is. I didn't even realize that when I put that picture there, but it fits. It absolutely fits because, they just enjoy your company, and they want to hang out, and they want to maybe play cards with you, games on the computer, go to a concert. But it's not like they're going to be your soulmate where they have the same values. And maybe two of those girls will form a lasting friendship, but all five of them will not have a true friendship because true friendship is rare. So, what do you think happens to youth when their parents are maybe absent and they start hanging around with the wrong crowd and getting into trouble with their friends? Have you ever seen anything like that happen to teenagers, people in high school, where they start to hang out with the wrong crowd of people?
Yeah, they
What?
tend to go down the wrong path.
Yeah,
Yes.
because they take on those people's
Absolutely.
behaviors and values and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's why Aristotle believes that, we've got to start looking at friendship if we want to develop good character because people behave like the people that they associate with and their friends. And that tends to affect their habits and their character. So good, good. I think you both have a great understanding of Aristotle's three forms of friendship. Let's go on to the core of virtue ethics. For Aristotle, moral conduct is something that emanates from a person's moral virtues, from his or her moral character, and not from obedience to moral laws. A virtue ethics really asks the question, what type of person should I be? You look around today's world, and gosh, in the media and the TV, and it is, I have to say, it's not like it was when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. You only back then, everybody was supposed to follow the golden rule and was supposed to be virtuous and supposed to be respectful. There was no disrespectful music and disrespectful movies and all that disrespectful. No, no. But these days, you really have a choice. If you look into the media, you can have a choice of what kind of person you want to be. And some of those choices are not good. I mean, for the average kid growing up, Brianna, what kind of person, can they be? I mean, what are the types, the personality types and the lifestyles that are out there?
Well, we make choices as we grow up. So sometimes we can choose to hang out with positive people, and sometimes we can choose to hang out with negative people or negative crowds. And I believe that you really are who you hang out with and what you surround yourself with. Those who tend to surround themselves with negativity or people that might be going down a wrong path, you end up following that as opposed to leading into positive behaviors and actions of your life. So, yeah, I believe that as we're in school, that's when we start figuring out what type of person we want to be, and what type of person we should be.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. Hi, Nicole. How you doing? I noticed I had a family of friends, and this young person sort of grew up in a family restaurant. And we all kind of watched people in the family, and we were watching this young man to see, well, what kind of person will he turn out to be? He grows up and he's working in this restaurant, and he's up front as a host, being very polite. And I noticed, gosh, when he became like 20 years old, all of a sudden he's like smoking dope and going to the gym and getting buffed and hanging around with a whole different group of people, listening to a whole different type of music. And it was like, wow, and it was obvious to me that this young man was changing because of the people he was hanging around with and because of his own self-image. And he had chosen what type of person I want to be, and it was a certain, um, an identity that was the one that was offered in the media, for some people. So it's very difficult, I think, for young people growing up today to choose to be a virtuous person. I mean, I see a real challenge there because there's so many alternatives. I've seen this joke on the internet that said, I was going to be good, but there were too many other choices. And maybe we do have too many choices, Brianna, and maybe youth have too many choices, right? Because it's
Yeah.
certainly I mean, what can we do
Especially
to
with
help?
what social media really puts out there these days. I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm, still young. I'm only 31, but I can tell that there's been such a shift in what flashes on TV versus what used to come on, even commercials. I mean, things were inappropriate back then, that now are normal. I mean, you see kids on TikTok that are 12 and 13 years old, with certain outfits, dancing certain ways that I would have never gotten away with or even wanted to dress like. And now it's become the norm. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a shift, even in the last 5 to 10 years, I would say, with just the way what's acceptable now, versus what wasn't before.
You're right. We are in a period of rapid change, and some people would argue moral decline. And I can remember when I was 10 years old in the 80s, my mom and I decided we were going to get our ears pierced. We went to the mall, got our ears pierced. When we came back home, my dad threw a fit that I'd gotten my ears pierced, and all I was wearing was the little tiny for my birthstone, a little green earring in each, that was my birthstone. My dad threw a fit. He wanted that out immediately, and he thought it was the worst thing in the world. And now you see people with, a lot of tattoos, a lot of body art, multiple piercings to the tongue, the nose, the lips, and it's nothing. And I think is again changing morality. um so what can we do to help youth grow up and make decisions and choose virtue? What can we do to help people, adults, to choose virtue?
Well, I think it's important to discuss it, and it comes really from home, for most of us. I mean, growing up, I think it was something that was an expectation in my household, of how to present myself, and also, being open and having honest conversations about what does happen at school, especially particularly for, middle school and high school students. Nowadays, there are a lot of kids out there that are going down the wrong paths because conversations may not be happening at home, or parents are too busy to talk about certain things. So, I think it's important to be honest with, your children, or, whoever, nieces, nephews, whoever it is that's around you, and just have that open dialogue with them so they don't go down that, and instilling, virtue into your child at home is where it begins.
Yes, you are definitely right. If I'll just give myself as an example, I grew up in kind of a strict military home, and before I knew my dad, he used to like to race motorcycles and race cars. But then he joined the army and got kind of serious, and then he joined the Air Force and became a sergeant. So, once I was born, my dad was like 39 years old, and he was very strict, and we were always told no drugs ever. And it was never even an option for me. And I just remember seeing commercials when I grew up that just said, forget alcohol and drugs, forget it. I used to sit next to my best friend in our health class in grade school, and they showed us pictures, all these awful, awful drugs that people took in the 70s, and we were like, ooh, we would never want our bodies messed up by all these terrible, terrible drugs. And we'd read about, all the terrible things they do to your body. And I was like, oh no, we never want that. And so that set of morality was just drilled into my head by the time I was, 10 years old. Not going to be doing drugs. You're not going to be lying. You're not going to be stealing. You're going to be responsible. You're going to be at home at a certain hour. And like you said, that was taught at home. And the other things that weren't taught at home were certainly taught, at school when I was very young and impressionable. And then I grew up, pretty much holding on to those values. So what about people that don't get taught that, Nicole? How can we encourage people to be moral if they haven't been taught that at home? What about if you're an adult? How can you be encouraged to be moral?
I think that, like Brianna said, definitely through discussion. Also, leading, just by your actions. Um, I think it's a process. It's definitely a long process. You're not going to learn it overnight. And some people just don't. Some people just don't catch on, and you know, I just really like she said, discussion and by action.
How about joining the military? Because my dad and his twin brother, they were both, like I said, they were when they were teenagers, they were racing cars, racing motorcycles, and then they joined the military and they straightened right up.
Yeah, that joining the military is one way, because you basically you start instilling values into people, and values that they don't know, that they didn't grow up with, and you give them structure. So the structure, you know, it helps a lot of people develop, and having a purpose, giving direction and guiding, all those things, help with changing the perspective of somebody and what their values um, mean to them. And yeah, so
Good. And I even think, teenagers, when you're hanging out at home, you may, feel like you have time, and when you have free time on your hands, you might be able to get involved in little pranks. But once you get a job, I started working when I was 16. I got a job to go to. I go to school during the day. When I get off of, when I get off out of school, I got 1 hour, then I got to be at work. Again, how much trouble can I get into? I'm going to school and then I got a job and I got to do that or I'm not going to have any money. So when you have a purpose to life, right? Then that really helps. Let's talk about this next word, teleological. For Aristotle, every living being has an end toward which it naturally aims. And because we're teleological, right? When I get up in the morning, I write a list of what I have to do because I've got a purpose. I'm not just out here floating and bouncing around. I got a list of things to do. I got purpose. I got long-term goals. I've got short-term goals. So for Aristotle, he says that's the way human beings are. We are teleological, which means we're aiming toward an end. Life is not meant to just something to be aspire toward, but we are actually trying to fulfill a function, right? We are filling a purpose, that we are seeking something. So why do you think it's important to set goals?
Otherwise, you're just aimless, and when you are, then it's easy for you to be influenced by the most attractive thing that might not be the best thing for you. So I think if you have a goal or you're a person who's reached your goal, and one thing that you can do is share by teaching, having classes, or volunteering with other people who need that direction, so that they might become attracted to where you are and say, okay, this is my goal as well. Or maybe a deviation from your goal becomes their goal, and then they become purposeful, I think.
Absolutely. Once I started teaching, I was teaching one class, but then at one point I started teaching 4 classes a week. Again, I don't have time to get in trouble. I don't have time to do drugs. I don't have time to do all the stuff that other people are doing because I have to work. I got bills to pay, I got car payments, rent, mortgage, whatever. And when you've got those goals, when you're trying to build your version of the American dream for yourself, to earn something for yourself, then you don't have time to just, hang out with your friends at the pool hall all the time or just sit around and, smoke recreational drugs, whatever it is people do, because we're here because we have a goal, right? The goal is to get the associate's degree, to get the bachelor's degree, to get the master's degree, to get the PhD, whatever it is that you're seeking, whether it's to start your own business or to work for someone else or to advance or to make more money, to buy a bigger house, to give your family a better life. It's a goal, and that becomes your purpose. And if you don't have that, I think you're lost. I really do. Any other comments about goals? Anyone have any goals they'd like to share?
I have a lot of goals, but I think for me, learning about goal setting, I learned that not all goals have to be huge, and sometimes it's the little ones that make the most impact. So for me personally, lately I've been on a fitness journey. So I set a goal every month of just 10 pounds. You know, I know that I want to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, but if I tell myself 30 pounds in 3 months, I get overwhelmed and that's not achievable anymore. So
That's a
instead,
lot.
yeah. So I've got goals to be in Vegas, so I have to like be bikini ready. So in order to do that, I know I need to lose 30 pounds. So um every, 2 weeks, I'll just check and check my measurements. I won't even get on a scale. I'll just check my measurements just to see if I'm, attaining those small goals first. So, and that's just an example of a little goal I have. But I think it's important to challenge yourself to also make those small goals, because sometimes we say things like, oh, I do want to buy a house in the future, or I want to own $1 million property, right? But those sometimes can be things that you have to work towards, obviously. So putting that amount of pressure on myself doesn't necessarily work for me. So instead, I've been challenging and working on myself to attain small goals, such as, making sure that I ace this class. Like that's a small goal that I have for myself. So just, I would say that the key for me in goals is also challenging myself monthly on small goals, not just the big goals of like becoming a rich millionaire, or buying a home that's expensive, or, just the little things too matter.
Great. I think you're doing a great job. And I've heard this described as SMART goal, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and tangible. And I'm going to type that into the chat box. That's an acronym. I'll even put timely in there. So I've heard people talk a lot about SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. I've heard, tangible, SMART goals. And yes, and it certainly everything is a building block, block by block. You start out with a one step. A journey of 1,000 miles starts out with one step, and then you take another step, and then you take another step, and that's how we progress. So yeah, I think you got it all figured out, Brianna. Okay, great. Okay, so for Aristotle, what is the proper aim of human beings? Well, in his book, The Nicomachean Ethics, named after his son, he talks about the Greek word eudaimonia, which is the word for flourishing. For Aristotle, the true goal of humans is to flourish, right? To be happy, the full realization of the good life. And it can happen for you. It can happen for everyone on this call. But to achieve it, human beings must fulfill the function that is natural and distinctive to them, and that is to live fully in accordance with reason. And that to me sounds like a Greek philosopher. That the function of human beings is to live fully according to reason, because that ability to reason is what separates us from the other animals. So what do you think about that, Charisse? Is Aristotle right? Should our goal be happiness? Is that really the final end? Happiness?
Yes, I 100% agree. Um, I I feel from experience that if happiness is not your real end goal, your true goal, then you're never going to be happy. you're never going to be satisfied in life. I mean, you can chase everything else, you're just not going to be happy. Once you figure out what it is that makes you really feel good and you pursue that, then even if you're not doing that great at it, you feel you're going to be happy. I've personally experienced that. So, yes, I agree.
Yeah, I have friends that just chase money and they are not happy. They got big houses, they got big careers, they got big bank accounts, nice cars, but they're not happy. Something's missing. What would make you happy, Nicole?
I think that's a difficult question for me to answer. I think that what would make me happy is doing what I love to do without worrying about paying bills or other things like other uh, things that come with being an adult. Um, Being healthy. Um, I don't know, just and being of service, being of service to my community or to just to anyone for any purpose. I had recently volunteered at the animal shelter here in my county, and that really, when I get the time and I'm able to go, that really gives me a sense of, um, I don't know, I just like it. When I'm done, I just have this fulfilling sense of, I don't even know how to describe it, but I'm definitely a lot happier when I'm walking out of there. And all I do is like walk the dogs and I take them out to the play yard and give them a few minutes of that happiness, you know, and put them back in the pen and everything. But I feel almost complete, I think, when I walk out of there. So I guess just doing things like that, being of service and getting myself involved in things and things that I like to do. And that's like happiness to me, I guess. You know.
That's a wonderful example, and certainly there's a lot of biochemistry that is involved in happiness. I should post a photograph of what happiness looks like because happiness can be actually, it can be seen under a microscope and on a cellular level, what it is in your brain that what happens when you're happy can actually be seen. But certainly powerful endorphins are circulating in your brain when you are happy, when you're doing the things that you love, when you feel fulfilled, when you feel valued, when you feel powerful, when you feel useful, when you have achieved. So yeah, that's a terrific example, Nicole. And education, in my experience, is the road to happiness because it helps you live more fully in accordance with reason, making the right decisions about your finances, about your morals, about your ethics, about what you're going to do, what you're going to spend time with, who you're going to spend time with, how you're going to spend your time. So I think, getting more education, of course, helps you get a better job that can pay more money so that you don't have to worry about bills. So I guarantee you that day is coming when you get out of school and you're done with school and you're working the job that you deserve to work and that you enjoy working and you're no longer worried about bills and you can do the things that you enjoy that make you happy. So yes, eudaimonia is the goal. Any questions about that? So again, for Aristotle, happiness is an activity of the soul in accordance with a complete and perfect virtue. The virtuous life helps human beings achieve true happiness and is the realization of true happiness. Can somebody who is in and out of jail dealing drugs, can they actually achieve happiness? That does not look like a very good life to me. But being virtuous, you have peace of mind. You can sleep at night. You know you've done the right thing. And virtues help you to live a good life. Keeps you out of jail, right? Anything that keeps you away from the police is good. Anything that gets you towards the police is bad. So again, living that virtuous life can help you be happy. Let's talk about another theory in Aristotle's virtue ethics, which is the golden mean. The golden mean is a balance between two behavioral extremes. A moral virtue would be courage, and it's the midpoint between foolhardiness and cowardice. Foolhardiness is an excess of courage, cowardice is a deficit of courage, but true courage would be the midpoint. It's the golden mean. Starving, gluttony versus just eating enough to be satisfied. That's the golden mean. For Aristotle, the virtuous and happy life is a life of all moderation. So do you agree with that, Brianna? Would you rather be rich or would you rather be filthy rich? Is a life of moderation going to make you happy?
I don't know if I agree. I'm a little torn. Yes, I believe in moderation. Um, but I don't know if I agree with this one completely.
Yeah, I think I'd rather be filthy rich than just kind of rich. And then again, it's for us to know what to do with the money. If you're like Whitney Houston, you're going to use all the money on drugs, and many other people have done it too. That's just the example that comes to my mind. Then,
Mhm.
too much money is a bad thing for people that don't know what to do with that money, right? Have you seen the talk shows where, somebody's won the lottery and they've won $1 million, and then a year later they're back on the talk show talking to Dr. Phil about what has happened in the year when they won $1 million, they lost it all, forgot to pay taxes on it, and now they're in jail. Have you ever seen those shows?
I've heard about some situations where that's happened. I haven't seen any shows, but I've definitely heard where that has happened, or even people that have gotten the money and lost all the money within like a short amount of time because they're not used to having that kind of money. So yeah.
There was even a worse one that was true. A man won the lottery and his family killed him because they wanted the money. I mean, I'm sure he would have shared it with him. His family just killed him so they get the money. So, too much money could actually interfere with you being happy. Maybe the key is moderation, Brianna. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'm changing my mind here. Moderation is definitely key.
Yeah, you don't
Or
want to
you
have
could,
too.
or
Hmm.
you could be filthy rich but live moderately, you know.
There you go.
Absolutely.
You ever
Yeah.
heard of the actor Nicolas Cage? He was just, when he was really popular making a lot of movies, he was just buying 4 or 5 Rolls Royces at a time, 4 or 5 Porsches, 4 or 5 Lamborghinis, 4 or 5 houses, 4 or 5 castles in Europe. Again, it was not moderation. Okay, you're a wealthy actor, buy one castle, get one Escalade, get one Lamborghini. Do you really need 3 or 4 or 5 or 6? And then, of course, 10 or 20 years have gone by, he's not making any movies. All that stuff's in foreclosure.
I was just about to say, I noticed the ones who end up doing that, tend to be the ones who then run out of money because they are spending frivolously.
Absolutely. So, maybe Aristotle was right. In the Middle Ages, around, which was like between, I would say, 800 to 1400 AD, he was considered to be the philosopher. All of the thinkers in the Middle Ages looked up to Aristotle as the source of all wisdom. His ideas are still very, very influential on life. For example, he really invented the idea of scientific empiricism, which is looking in science and nature and, determining facts based on what can be observed. That's really led to the development of the scientific method, scientific research, messenger RNA research, vaccines, a lot of that all goes back to Aristotle's beliefs and observations in his belief in what he called scientific empiricism, observational science, looking around nature and acquiring knowledge based on what you see happening in the world around you and in nature. So yes, Aristotle is a very, very important philosopher, and in the area of virtue, I think that that his writings are worth reading. So let's keep going. So there's a criticism of virtue ethics, which is, well, does it really tell you what you should do? Is there a formula you can apply? Appeals to a virtuous character without reference to principles of duty. Like in Kantian ethics, you have the categorical imperative and universal moral rules. Well, what kind of guidance does virtue ethics give you? For example, Dr. Green may be benevolent, just, and virtuous, but he doesn't know if stem cell research should be continued. Should he stop life support for a terminally ill cancer patient? How would virtue ethics help you to answer a question like that, Brianna?
I'm not quite sure on this one.
Yeah, and that's the weakness of it. Okay, let's go to utilitarianism. Utilitarianism, according to Jeremy Bentham, said that the morally right action maximizes pleasure, minimizes pain. So, in that case, what should Dr. Green do if he has a terminally ill patient? If he's a utilitarian, what should he do? What course of action would minimize pain and minimize suffering? What do you think, Nicole?
I think he should cut the life support.
I know some doctors who do that. I personally disagree with it, and here's why. There are a lot of instructors here who are very critical of the medical community. I was a medical malpractice lawyer 25 years ago, so doctors make a lot of mistakes. So the doctor may think that someone is terminally ill. That person could wake up out of the coma at any time. Sometimes a patient is just sleeping and the doctor thinks they're in a coma. There was a case in Texas a couple years ago where a son had a seizure disorder. Every couple of years, he would have a seizure, go to the hospital, and the doctor would say, let's cut off life support. Well, his dad was standing by his side, holding his hand and saying, no, my son just has a seizure disorder. He'll wake up. And his dad whispered into his ears and said, can you hear me? If you can hear me, squeeze my hand. And his son squeezed his hand. And so the father was like, no, you're not going to cut off life support. Meanwhile, the people in the hospital are already calling organ donation companies, ready to, end this man's life. So sadly, the father left the hospital, went home, got a gun, came back into the hospital and said, if you don't help my son, I'm going to blow your head off. And guess what? Guess what happened? What do you think happened? Charisse?
I'm guessing the son wakes up.
Son woke up. He's still alive today. Father did have to go to prison, though, for, brandishing a firearm and threatening people. But his son is still alive. I think his father, had to do maybe 3 years in prison. And yeah, his son is still alive. So sometimes you have to take a stand for what you believe is right. And that was a serious moral dilemma. And I've seen that more times than I care to admit, because doctors and nurses are not perfect. They're running in and out of hospital rooms. They're spread thinner now than they ever are. A lot of people have a different idea about theories of medicine and treatment. And I've seen doctors try to pull the plug on people who could probably make it. So going back to Kantian ethics, Kant believes there's an inherent value in human life. Human beings should not be used to a means to an end, and that we should follow universal moral laws. And that means if it's not okay for me to kill you, it's not okay for you to kill me. So what would Kant say in this situation of maybe a
plug? Do not pull the plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, do not stop life support.
Based on what I've going back to Aristotle's ethics, scientific empiricism, what I've actually observed in hospitals, a lot of times doctors make mistakes, and yeah, if there's a doubt, I would recommend continue life sustaining efforts. Do not try to kill people because they do it every day in hospitals. And if that man in Texas had not gone home and gotten a gun and come back, his son would not be alive because they were already planning on what to do with his organs.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that's why I was torn because morally, I would say don't stop life support, but at the same time, it's like, like Nicole said, pull life support. There's such a tug there because there's different, I mean, everybody believes that, there should be their answers right, or, it could go different ways. So I'm always like, oh my gosh, I don't know. It's a very hard question.
Yes, it is. It is a very difficult question. And fortunately, patients have rights and the patient's family has rights. And that's why they give you the opportunity to fill out the advance directives as to whether, when you go in a hospital, whether you want to be resuscitated, do not resuscitate. And especially for cancer patients, certain states have recognized, like Oregon, a right to die. And some of these, there was a woman a few years ago, she had a terminally ill form of cancer. She was only 29. She was very attractive. She was on the cover of People magazine. Her doctor gave her a pill and said, whenever you're ready to end this in your battle with cancer, just go to your bedroom and take the pill. And one day she did, you know. So, and you see how virtue ethics won't help you answer that question.
Mm.
Whereas if you have like me, if you have a strong belief in deontological ethics and you follow what Kant says, you're going to get a more certain outcome because you follow universal moral laws, look at the patient's rights, look at your duties, look at the inherent value in human life, the rule of reversal. If you apply Kantian ethics, you have a lot of certainty there. If you apply utilitarianism, you simply choose the course of action that minimizes suffering, you know? So, but if you're talking about duty ethics, I don't know what duty ethics would say about stem cell research, I really don't know how you could apply that. So that's a criticism. That's a weakness of virtue ethics. Oh, it's such a great theory. Thank you, Aristotle. But what do I actually do with it when I'm at work making a decision? Does it help me? I don't know. So we are almost at the end of the live session. Your live session question is, what is the golden mean? Now let's talk briefly about Buddhism and your assignments for next week. And I'm just going to have to take you over a few minutes. Sorry about that. We'll talk briefly about Buddhism, and then we'll go over the module 3 assignments. So Buddhism is similar to Aristotle's virtue ethics, and again, that character really matters. Buddhism is also focused on the spiritual path. Okay, Buddhism originated in India. It is based on the life and teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, who is the Buddha, or the enlightened one. Buddha grew up in luxury as a prince, and his father tried to keep him from experiencing any suffering. It's almost like Prince Harry. But after encountering the suffering of others, he gave up his princely life and that of becoming future king to help find a way of overcoming suffering. So one day, the prince went into a meditation. So what a lot of people do is when they're trying to find their spiritual identity, they will try to go out, and some people go into a fast, a religious fast. They'll try to live a very frugal life, refrain from the use of worldly goods. This is part of the Buddhism, and they get in their spirituality. So this is what Gautama did. He was a prince. He gave all of that up, and he decided to live a frugal life. and he practiced such an extreme level of fasting that he nearly died of starvation. One day, while accepting a bowl of rice offered to him by a young girl, he realized this was not the path he was looking for. He went into a deep meditation, which is what Buddhists do. And in the meditation, he found the path that he was searching for, and it was called the middle way, like the golden mean. The middle way is a path between two extremes of luxury and asceticism. So let's go back, capture a couple of the high points of Buddhism. Buddhism really believes about that we're on a path. The ultimate goal is nirvana. And Buddhists are on the path to enlightenment, which is divided into three parts: wisdom, meditation, and morality. The Buddhists must practice each of these three aspects, and they're complementary to the other. So the better you meditate, the better your mind will be, and the clearer your mind will be for wisdom. The better you're able to make good moral choices based on the Buddhist teachings, the clearer your mind is for meditation. So, the more pure your mind is, you can receive wisdom, and the more wisdom you have, the better choices you can make, and the more moral you are, the clearer your whole spirit is, so you can continue to attain more and more knowledge through meditation. And this is how the Buddhists seek enlightenment. The Buddhists follow these 5 precepts, which are rules: abstain from harming and killing, instead show compassion; abstain from stealing, instead give; abstain from the misuse of sensual pleasures; abstain from false speech; and abstain from any intoxicants that can cloud the mind. And if you eventually do that, then you will achieve enlightenment. A Sanskrit is an enlightened being. In early Buddhism, the term is used to refer to the Buddha before he attained supreme enlightenment, or any being destined for enlightenment or intent on enlightenment. So you would call that person a Bodhisattva. A Bodhisattva is the person who is working toward enlightenment. The Bodhisattva does not aspire to leave the cycle of suffering until everyone is saved. So there's a little bit of selflessness in being a Bodhisattva. The modern spokesperson for Buddhism is the Dalai Lama. If you get on his website, you can follow, his statements, and he'll make a statement almost every day about the way that we should be living. There's a picture of the Dalai Lama. Well, he has spoken in support of the principles contained within the UN Declaration of Human Rights, which is a treaty which says without a sense of universal responsibility, our very survival becomes threatened, because basically universal responsibility is feeling for other people's suffering just as we feel for our own. It is a realization that even our enemy is entirely motivated by the quest for happiness. We must recognize that all beings want the same thing that we want, and that this is the way to achieve a true understanding, unfettered by artificial consideration. Wow. 1989 was a very intellectual year. It's a big statement. So do you agree with that, Charisse? Do all human beings want the same thing?
I think deep down, yes, everybody wants happiness.
Some people may be in denial about it, or they may be trying to go about getting it the wrong way, right? But they probably all everybody wants happiness.
Yes, I think so.
So this opens the doorway to global ethics. It's saying that, look, all human beings are motivated by a quest for happiness, and we need to realize that the suffering of somebody on the other side of the globe, it should be felt as our suffering, because without a sense of universal responsibility, our very survival becomes threatened. What did we experience in 2020? COVID-19, a disease, a deadly virus that originated in China. So we need to be more concerned with what people are doing in China. And this is probably not the first nor the last coronavirus we've seen. Some of these other coronaviruses, SARS and MERS, I think MERS originated in Africa. And one of their problems is deforestation, is bringing human beings into contact with wild animals that carry diseases. MERS was transmitted from a boy who had obtained a wild animal, but the wild animal had been bitten by a bat. There's different theories about where COVID-19 originated. I believe it originated in the Wuhan market in China, where people were selling livestock. They may have again been bitten by bats. And the livestock were again obtained in areas where, really, we really don't need to be out in those forests coming into contact with wild animals that have been bitten by bats. So without a concern for the universal, well-being and knowing what people are doing in other parts of the country, this bad virus in China is now in Las Vegas, So I think this was a very wise statement. Without a sense of universal responsibility, our very survival becomes threatened. Basically, the universal responsibility is feeling for other people's suffering, just as we feel for our own. It is a realization that even our enemy is entirely motivated by the quest for happiness. We must recognize that all beings want the same thing that we want. And this is the way to achieve a true understanding, unfettered by artificial consideration. Any thoughts about that, Nicole? It's a bold statement.
Yeah, it is. I think everyone's level of happiness is different, like what their understanding of happiness is, and what one person's happiness is might not be what the other person's happiness is. And I just mentioned that to somebody here in the room with me. I said, well, like some people just want to watch the world burn, and that's their happiness, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we're all gonna be in, that there's gonna be cohesion between everyone. So, I don't know. I don't think that this is true, like for us as humans, because everyone just has a different idea of what their happiness is.
Excellent point. Yes, you've made a lot of very valid points, because we live in a world of amazing cultural diversity. What my neighbors want to do and what I want to do, what makes them happy. Honestly, living in these states where marijuana has been legalized, for some people, all they want to do is sit in their house and smoke marijuana, and they're happy and they're at peace. That ain't gonna work for me, period. I'm not judging those people, because they're my neighbors. But yeah, people want something very different in life. I do not want what my neighbors may want. So, um, we don't all want the same things, and everybody doesn't want peace, right? Some people want to engage in acts of terror. Some people would like to fly planes into the World Trade Center, right? So everybody doesn't want the same thing. So this is a nice theory, right? It's a nice idea. And some people may want universal peace. Obviously, somebody don't want peace, or we wouldn't have war, right? Why do we have war? Because somebody wants there to be a war. If nobody wanted to have World War I, we wouldn't have had it, right? Somebody over in Europe wanted to test out the strength of their military. That was World War I. And if not everybody wants peace. Yeah, Nicole says, I don't think there'll ever be peace. Yeah, because not everybody wants it, right? Human beings are teleological. Some people want to test out the strength of their military. Some countries want to flex their muscles. Some people are territorial. Some people are imperialist, Yeah, we're not going to all have peace because some people don't want peace. We can't even agree in the United States on a president, or on the direction of this country, or on a vaccine, or on a mask, right? So no, people actually do want different things. So Alrighty. So yeah, the central thing with Buddhism is showing compassion. Let's take a look at our Module 3 assignments, getting back to the real world. There's a discussion forum that asks you to present a reflection of your life that expresses your view of flourishing. So if you lived 99 years, what would a life of flourishing look like to you? And I'm going to get in that discussion forum tonight, see what you've been saying, and ask you some questions. You also need to submit the correct answer to the live session question, which is, what is the golden mean? And then there is a written assignment this week, which asks you to create a one-page help wanted ad for an entry-level marketing position, no APA required. So let me share with you an ad that was prepared by another student. Would that be helpful to see how another student has done this assignment?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if I can, students, gives you the chance to be very creative, which is always fun. But there are some requirements. One of the requirements is to include 5 virtues that the ideal applicant should possess. So let me grab a help wanted ad that another student prepared. Model assignment. Where's my model assignment? Go to my desktop. Module 2, Module 3. Sorry for the delay. I'm looking for this document, which I thought I had on my desktop. Okay, share, content, a file, library, libraries, ethics. I don't see one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share Microsoft Word with you and show you how to create this document. Just 1 second. Bear with me while I try to pull up what I'm looking for. Where is Microsoft Word? I want to close that. Want to close that. Okay, I want to go back into this live session, share content, an application, Microsoft Word, Word. There it is. Jeez. Finally. Can you see my desktop with Microsoft Word on it?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm just going to show you how you can create this. I think there's a lot of template in here. Layout. You can pick up a template for a help wanted ad. I'm just going to create one here. So it needs to have a bold, eye-catching title. So I'm going to pick something with a bold font, maybe red, underlined, now hiring, marketing associates for Add It Up firm. That's kind of eye-catching. Then you want to add some pictures. So I'm going to insert pictures, and I'm going to insert pictures from online, which is just a great way for you to get some, some stock photos that are going to look good. How about office interview? So yeah, it's something professional image, what I'm looking for. There we go. That's kind of interesting. You can get creative. All right, so there's an image, and then I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to make it smaller. Size and position, that's too big. I want to make that smaller. There we go. Up. And then that's too small. Size and position. Let's make that bigger. Okay, perfect. So then I want to say entry level marketing positions are available. No experience required. Should possess the following about the ideal candidate should possess the following virtues. So what do you think are some virtues that your ideal candidate should possess, Nicole?
Yes, maybe timeliness is one, definitely. So punctuality, um, yes, yes, all of those, definitely.
Accountability, maybe a positive
Good.
attitude, integrity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's more than 5. And then you just need to put on there how the person can apply for the job. So
Values.
to apply for the position, please use this link, www.additup.com. And you could add another picture maybe. So, didn't take me that long to do. Some people
Easy.
add a little more detail. You can add more photos. But that gives you a rough idea of what it requires. Any questions?
Nope.
Yeah, as you can see, it didn't take me very long to put that together.
I can get this all done tonight. That's good.
Awesome. Great. Well, that brings us to the end of our Module 3 live session. So please submit your answer to the live session question to get credit for the assignment. And the question is, what is the golden mean according to Aristotle? And that's due Sunday, May 30th. It's almost the end of the month, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Memorial Day holiday. I can't wait to have a day off.
You as well. Have a good
You
weekend.
as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Bye,
You too.
Cherise. Bye, Brianna.
Bye.
Bye, Nicole. Thank you for coming.
Bye.
I love that class. I love this class. I love this class.
Oh, I'm so glad you're enjoying it. It's good to talk to people.